What's good, everybody? Generate Talent here. I have 4 guys you want to buy in competitive rosters. If you're going for the chip this year in 2-6, these are some guys you want to make sure are on the team, or at least grow them in value so you could sell them off for a piece you'd rather have. So the first guy we're going to talk about has had quite an odd career, right? Justin Herbert, who's 28 now, came into the league at 2020. 2020 through 2022, he was throwing for almost 5,000 passing yards with 30 touchdowns a year. Everything was good. Lately, from 23 to 25, we've seen the touchdowns drop down to 26, 23, 20, and hasn't thrown for 4,000 yards since. So, what do we see? Is he just falling off, or can we reclaim those first 3 years of production? Now, when we got Greg Roman on the offense with Harbaugh, we knew it was going to be a rushing first style offense. But now we have Mike McDaniel covering the offensive coordinator. It's time to air it out. And we got the pieces, too, to air it out. You have Trey Harris, hopefully going to get a little bit more work this year, alongside Ladd McConkey leading the charge. And we have Quentin Johnston also there as well. Those are 2 first-round receivers, which is a lot of help for Herbert. And then we found Randre Gadsden the second, last year at tight end. So some interesting things happening in this offense. He definitely has the tools. There's really no excuse now. Hopefully he rehabbed that hand. He was running around with a cast on his hand last year. But still, even with the hand injury, he had his most rushing yards he's ever rushed for, which is 500 yards. He had 2 rushing touchdowns as well. So that gives me hope. Yeah, I'm a rushing quarterback first. I have to have a dual threat. But Herbert, if he's going to rush for 500, that's a rushing quarterback to me, and I'm all for it. So we like the tools that Herbert has. A lot of things we're looking forward to here. He's quarterback 10 in Fantasy Flocks rankings. Guys behind him, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, Bo Nix, and Dak Prescott. I wouldn't rather have any of those guys that are currently ranked below him. Guys ranked above him, Jackson Dart, Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Caleb Williams. And I would rather have Justin Herbert when we're talking about Jackson Dart, when we're talking about Jalen Hurts, when we're talking about a rehabbing Patrick Mahomes. Looking at his age, too, Herbert, with the quarterbacks, he could play another 10 years. So in Dynasty, while I said it's competing rosters, this guy could play another 10 years. Same thing with Mahomes, Hurts. Those guys, they could give you longevity. So those pass-first guys, something to consider when you are looking for pass-first quarterbacks. With Justin Herbert, I just think there's a lot of growth to be had. Currently sitting at quarterback 10 on the bottom of the B tier. He averaged 18 fantasy points a game last year, finished at quarterback 10, but just a lot to return, I think. I think with the Mike McDaniel signing, the offense really turns a corner and unlocks those first-round receivers as well as getting Trey Harris in the mix here. That's Justin Herbert. Next one up, not going to be a popular choice. He fumbles on the goal line. That's my guy, Randre Stevenson. Where we remember Randre Stevenson is the second half of the year. In the playoff picture, this dude was balling, and the Patriots really trusted him to carry the load. Travion Henderson took a back seat. And remember, Travion Henderson is not this bell cow running back. He hasn't been in college. I don't know why they're trying to sell him as that. Might be on my sell video because he's currently, I think, running back 7. We know he's a home run hitter, but true try consistency. Stevenson is in there for 60% of the work on offense. 60% of the work for Stevenson is enough to contribute. And currently, he's at running back 38 in Fantasy Flocks rankings, which is ridiculous for a guy that consistently produces. So here we go. Rhamondre at 34, I'm sorry. Guys behind him are Rashad White, Woody Marks, Tyrone Tracy. Like Woody Marks, straight backup. Rashad White, probably splitting time there. Guys in front of him, J.K. Dobbins, Blake Corum, Rico Dowdle, Zach Charbonnet, Chuba Hubbard. I'd rather have Rhamondre than all of these guys above that, too. So when we talk about Rhamondre Stevenson, he averaged about 13 points a game last year, but you got to look at weeks 16 and 17 in the playoff picture, 17.8, 27.2. Week 18, if you're crazy enough to play fantasy in week 18, he had 35 points. So this guy's hitting home runs when it counts late in the year. If you can get there, he just turned 28 in February, so he'll be 28 the rest of this year. But you'll notice his snap percentage in the middle of the season was at about 70 to 80%. Then it kind of digressed down to the 60% average. So as long as this guy's on the field 60% of the time, I think there's going to be very fruitful numbers and much better than running back 34, which is just an insult in the likes of J.K. Dobbins, Blake Corum, Rico Dowdle, Zach Charbonnet's not even going to be there, until midseason. So just ridiculous. I think Randre Stevenson is, and that's why I'm buying Stevenson at running back 34 value. I think he's going to return top 25 running back value. If you look where he's been in his career, the last 3 years, he was 22nd best running back on 60% snap share, 28th best running back, 63% snap share, 27th best running back, 63% snap share, and 11th best running back, 65% snap share. He also just signed a 4-year deal last year, so I think he's going to have another 2 years after this year. So a lot to look forward to when we're talking about Randre Stevenson, and he's never finished as a bottom 30 back, so I don't know why he's at running back 34. Now, one thing that's concerning, that's scaring people off Josh Jacobs, is the age. Randre just turned 28, so if you're not on a competing roster, I could see why you would be moving him away, of course, but I'd wait for a couple boom games before you ship him off if you choose to do so. Let's go. One of my receivers I've been picking up a ton of, and I've never really loved Zay Flowers, let's be honest, because he's kind of just flash in the pan, speed, never has the name notoriety that kids are talking about that they want to be like, but Zay Flowers is just consistency, and Lamar finally supported a top 20 receiver, and they said he couldn't. So right now, Fantasy Flock has Zay Flowers at wide receiver 21. People behind him, Marv Harrison, Jamison Williams, A.J. Brown, Jalen Waddle. I'd rather have Zay Flowers over all of those guys. Guys in front of him, Brian Thomas, Rashee Rice, a lot of question marks there. Luther Burden. A lot of guys I'd much rather prefer Flowers, especially when I need consistency. Rashee Rice, who knows what's going on with the law. Brian Thomas, who knows what's going on with the situation. He's got the yips. So I'm taking Zay Flowers at 25 years old when he starts the season. Something we like about Zay Flowers also, he finished as the 9th best wide receiver last year on 88% snap share. He's always out there. He's averaging 5 receptions a game on 70 yards. His touchdown rate is increasingly low, on 0.29%. That means he scores in less than 1 out of every 3 games. I think that can only go up with a healthy Lamar. So with Zay Flowers, again, this is a guy that contributed big late in the year. Weeks 14, 15, 16. Weeks 14, he had 20.6 fantasy points. 15, 15.8, 21.2 and 16. Week 18, he had 30 fantasy points. So this guy excels at the end of the year as well. I love that. His name never supports that he was a top 9 receiver. Great snap share. Averaging 5 receptions a game. There's a lot of damage we can do on that, and Baltimore still hasn't added a receiver. Now, if A.J. Brown comes to town, things could shift a little bit. Zay Flowers, I would see a little bit of a regression there, but for right now, he's wide receiver 1 in a Baltimore offense. Mark Andrews, you could see they don't quite believe in him. They paid him a couple years, but I think they're going to get some tight end competition in there. But really, when we look at the receiver room, it's Zay Flowers. Hopefully Devontae Walker, because I picked him up late. But it's Zay Flowers, and that's about it. So there it is for the wide receiver. Last but not least, my favorite player, my favorite tight end, of course, this year, Kyle Pitts, senior. Don't forget the senior. We got a 25-year-old tight end that's played in the league for 5 years. That's got to be worth something. You have 5 years of experience. He's younger than some of the tight ends coming in from college, which is something to be said. I'd much rather have a guy with 5 years of experience than someone coming in new, fresh. And we're so quick with the tight end picture to compare them. Sadiq's going to be the next Kyle Pitts. Eli Stower is going to be the next Kyle Pitts. Stop it. Stop it. This guy was tagged as a generational talent along with Brock Bowers. Those were the only 2 tight ends that were labeled generational talents. Trey McBride kind of came out of nowhere, a later pick. But pump the brakes on all these tight ends. And remember, a lot of tight ends, it takes a good 3 to 5 years to really put up consistent stats. So all these guys you see boom early on, the Harold Fannons, the Laportas, usually have that regression in the second year in trying to figure things out. The league adjusts, they adjust. It usually takes some time. I'm also going to put a graphic on screen that's going to show the tight ends, where they usually get the most of their production, years 25 to 30. Pitts is entering that. You'll have a good 5 solid years when it comes to that. There's also a chance he gets traded at draft day or even prior to draft day. We know the Falcons got new personnel up top. They want draft picks. They don't currently have any high picks. They traded it to the Rams for their DN that's currently in trouble with the law. We don't know how that's going to go. He was dating a WNBA player. Didn't look good, stalking her and doing a bunch of different things there. So the Falcons are kind of G'd out of their pick, and they're constantly reminded that the pick that they used, great numbers, but he's currently in trouble with the law. So I think Pitts could possibly be moved on draft day. They haven't quite hyped him up. They haven't showed him in any of the new jerseys or the new promo. I think they're pumping the brakes, seeing if they can find a suitor. But if they can't, Kevin Stefanski is great with tight ends. I think Kyle Pitts can return to that top 5 tight end value. He was number 2 last year. Don't forget, on a very bad tight end year. But hey, nonetheless, he did finish number 2. Yes, you'll hear the knocks. He did it all in one game against Tampa Bay. We all saw it on Thursday night, right? Yeah, well, that was the first week of my playoffs. He put up 45 points, and that was the TKO on Thursday. So he was also pretty good the rest of the playoff picture, but that first week of the playoffs, he was that guy, 45 points, and that fueled his number 2 season. So let's look at Kyle Pitts. Let's break him down a little bit. This is in Atlanta, right? He averaged 12.4 fantasy points on 5 receptions a game, which is great. That's just like Zay Flowers. Receiving yards averages about 55 per game on an 88% snap percentage, so he's always out there. That's what we need. His touchdowns, very similar to Zay Flowers. You see a trend I'm going for here. When their touchdown percentage is real low, like Pitts is at 0.29, which is 1 out of every 3 games, even less than that, I think there's a big spot for growth there. We know Kyle Pitts, if you've been following, he gets 1 extra touchdown every year of his career. His rookie year, he got 1, 2, and he had 5 last year. You could do the math. So with 5 years in the league, increasing a touchdown every year, that's positive, right? You want to see your guy get better. He had a really good year on targets per route run. He was number 6. This is just a great player that has stung people enough where there are some gaps where you can possibly pick him up. Currently, Fantasy Flock has him in the B tier of tight ends, which is amongst Tucker Kraft and Harold Fannin. I'd much rather have Kyle Pitts than Tucker Kraft coming off that ACL. I'd also rather have him than Harold Fannin. I know Fannin's only 21, but Kyle Pitts, I think, has a much higher ceiling. Harold Fannin did lead the NCAA in receptions for Bowling Green, and he was that guy in college. But I don't think he's the caliber tight end that Kyle Pitts is when Cleveland's offense finally figures it out and has some functional pieces. He isn't the only one. So those are the people in front of him, Tucker Kraft, Harold Fannin. Now, in a tier below him, you have Sam Laporta, Randre Gadsden, Dalton Kincaid. You know I love Kincaid. Laporta coming off a back injury. Randre Gadsden, I think, has that regression year as the second year in the league. I think Pitts is that guy. I think he's in a great value. If he's going to be valued at tight end 7, he just took home tight end 2. I'm buying everywhere I can. I pretty much have him everywhere. I paid the price last year on hype, but now it's gone up. Now people are calling back. I just, as Geno Smith said, I didn't write back. I'm keeping him. Kyle Pitts is that guy. So there you have it. Generate talent. These are the 4 players I'm buying right now. I need to get on my team for the championship push. If you're rebuilding, might be a different look. But for right now, for a playoff push, for a championship roster, these are guys I want on the roster for the next couple years to help us secure a couple dynasties in Dynasty fantasy football. Generate talent. I'm out. Peace.